And so the other side that it's important to look at is the speed in which a practice owner can get to a state of sustainability. So if you are working another job, you're doing some PRN hours, you're just trying to get your practice off the ground, you're trying to get to that first 10 to 15K a month where
Hey, welcome back to the show. We have Dr. Ben Bagge and Jordan Mather of Clinical Marketer both back on the show. Ben's been on the show a couple times before. We have Jordan on recently, now back on. I said to the guys, and you guys help a lot of cash practices across the country. I said to you too, I kind of pitched this. I was like, let's do, packages versus per visit. You guys kind of, Ben's practice, and both of you do packages, you teach packages. We've tested it. We've done it before, and I'm going to be on the side. This is going to be a debate. I'm on the side of per visit. So we do mobile concierge home visits. You guys are brick and mortar. So yes, there's some differentiation here. We charge per visit, kind of in the range of like $300 per visit, Monday through Friday, $500 per visit on Saturday and Sunday, as kind of like, we'll get into that whatever price anchor type thing. But we don't do packages. As I was telling you in the pre-interview, we have a new EMR, and I know that tracks packages very well, like a digital punch card. So maybe you guys can persuade me. Maybe we'll get there. So if anyone doesn't know, both of you guys, give me a brief little introduction, and then we'll kind of get into the debate, and I'll go over like the bullet points and some of the topics, and we're going to kind of hammer it, and we're going to see who comes out on top. So Ben, just a brief background for anyone that doesn't know you or hasn't seen you before on the show.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us back. We just can't stay away, so I appreciate it, Dave. But yeah, no, I started my practice right out of physical therapy school in 2018, 100% cash based. I've now scaled from 0 to 3 locations and 0 to $2 million per year, all cash. And we treat active adults, athletes, CrossFitters, runners, really anybody that is a fitness enthusiast and values their health and wellness from a fitness perspective.
All right, and Jordan.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Mather. I'm the co-founder of a company called Clinical Marketer, and I've been helping physical therapy practices grow their brands online for the last 11 years. And so my specialty is really in the back-end systems and the marketing components of growing and scaling practices, specifically cash practices, over the last 5 years.
Awesome. Excellent. So I want to just go, we did some of these bullet points in the pre-interview. I just want to just tease a couple topics. So anyone listening early, I want to give them a reason to stick around. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons of packages versus per visit. I believe per visit is the way. Ben and Jordan are on the side of the packages. So we're going to talk about cash flow, blocking and commitment, results and outcomes. We're going to talk about the financial decision to even work with any of us, right? So whether per visit or cash package, or you pay for an evaluation and then kind of get presented the package offering. We're going to talk about orthopedic conditions versus neurological conditions, or patients that you guys might be treating out there that are orthopedic, but maybe they have like that back pain, but then also like neuropathy, diabetes, previous heart surgery, like multiple comorbidities, which results in them potentially not getting better in the package timeline that we're going to be talking about. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can. We'll see. What's better in terms of revenue and cash flow and profits we're going to get into, as well as kind of maintaining some of these patients or clients over time, new patient acquisition costs for all of this. Where would you guys like to start? I mean, when you kind of present this with your team, with your clients, the practice owners that you guys help across the country, like how do you kind of present this? Is it mostly, again, focused around the outcome, the results that you're trying to get for your patients and clients? You want to try to get them bought in, and you want to, build that therapeutic alliance. You want to get them locked into like the focus around the outcome and the result of that transformation. Like what are some initial starting points for this discussion?
Personally, I think the best place to start, at least for our people, is within the business economics. Just because before anyone even starts their practice, they have to know what it is that they actually want to get out of it, so that they can structure that business around the target that they actually want to have, whether it's just trying to make as big of an impact as they possibly can and start to shift consumers' ideas of what physical therapy actually is compared to like more traditional models, or if it's more of like, I want to have that lifestyle where I have a good balance between impact and time for myself, my family, the things that they want to do. So I think the I would say the best place to start would be the economics of the decision.
Perfect. One thing I didn't run by you guys in the pre-interview is the component of discounting. I want to get into it, but of course the business economics are vital. Like this is very different though. And I don't know. Let me kick it over to Ben. Is this different with business economics compared to in-network practices where the in-network contracts are paying horrible rates, like anywhere from $50 a visit to $120 a visit, like across the country, different, even the best paying states, like Medicare is at $100 a visit or 109 or 120 for the evaluation in 3 or 4 units or whatever. So how is what you guys do in terms of the business economics? Like obviously you're charging more per visit, or you're making more per visit compared to in-network practices. What else about Ben, the business economics that like makes this, profitable, makes this different or better than some in-network practice?
Yeah. So for me, it comes down to cash flow. You're going to have more cash flow upfront, which allows you to reinvest more into different marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads, whatever type of paid marketing you want to do, which helps speed up the process as well. That's one. Two, we will talk about obviously patient results, but this also translates into more dollars as well. By having patients buy in and essentially buy a package, they're being bought into the process a little bit more than they're paying per visit. Because somebody is more bought in, they're more likely to adhere to a plan of care. They're eventually going to get better results, most likely, if they're bought in. If they're more bought in, now they're getting better results. Because they're getting better results, you're getting more referrals because that person's happy because they ultimately did get the result that they're looking for. So you're getting more referrals, which decreases the amount of ad spend you have to do because that's free. Word of mouth is free. And so it decreases your marketing that you have to do because you're getting more referrals, because you're getting better results. You're also getting more testimonials and reviews. Like most of our patients come from online, a mix between online, like website, people searching us on Google, and referrals. And we're able to get more referrals because we're getting better outcomes. More reviews is translating into more new patients. Again, that online platform of Google, Yelp, website, you got to pay, maybe a hosting fee, but Google and Yelp is essentially free if you're not doing Google ads, and people are finding us naturally online. So it's translating into, again, free new patients. We're not having to pay acquisition costs because we're getting more reviews because patients are getting better results. So it's kind of a trickle down effect with it, and that ultimately helps us economically, not just from the cash flow up front, but decreasing the amount that we have to do from marketing ad spend standpoint too, because of the results.
And with the packages, do you guys make it, and this is maybe like a downfall of other practice owners, but do you make it optional, or it's like they pay for an evaluation, your therapist presents one specific package, or let me ask a couple questions. Do they present one package? Do they present 2 or 3 options? Or is it like you can pay per visit, or you can buy a volume-based discounted package and they kind of lean on the discount of as a crutch? Like, do you guys do all that? Do you do one of those things?
We do almost more of a hybrid. So we pitch, this also how I coach. Like I give all the different options, the pros and cons of each, and then allow somebody to make the best decision for their practice, because it can be different for every practice. For us, it's more of a hybrid approach. So we initially go for the painful, like that's what we pitch. Like that's what we recommend is painful. But if somebody just doesn't simply have the cash flow, or we get a strong financial objection, we still want to be able to help that person. It's not like an all or nothing type situation, right? I see a lot of cash practices where they're leaving a lot of money on the table because they're just doing it's all or nothing. You painful or you don't work with us, and you're leaving. And that's where I think you can go swing too far on the package side of things, where you are now not able to help a certain patient population or pocket because you're not giving that option. So we do recommend, we pitch the painful. We don't give the options. We don't give them initially that option to either do painful or per visit. If we get pushback on the painful, what we do is called a verbal agreement. Me being from Iowa in the Midwest, I like to think my word is good, and that's what I also.
That might not work here in New York City, but go ahead.
Right. So you gotta. So we also have like a verbal agreement. Like if we really try, we feel like we actually did a really good job on the sales process, really got to what is motivating somebody, and they're still having cost objections. What we do is like, hey, sounds like this is something you want to do. It's strictly just a cash flow issue. And we ask, is that correct, Ms. Smith? They're like, yeah, it's simply that. Like, all right, I'm not supposed to do this, but what I can do for you is if you give me your word that you are going to complete the 10 visits, I will bump the per visit rate of $300 down to $249, where you can pay $249 per session, $50 off by just giving me your word that you are going to commit and do 10 sessions. But I need you to give me your word on that. Does that sound fair? Hard to argue that that's not fair. And so we have different physical therapists on different spectrums of this, where we have one physical therapist that gets over 50% painful. Then we also have another therapist that gets like 15. What I'm looking at is the average visit per plan of care. How long are people sticking around? If somebody is, for us on average, around 9.1, 9.2 visits. Initially, when this individual started and they weren't getting a whole lot of pain fulls, I let them go for about 3 or 4 months to try and figure it out. But I looked at the data. They were averaging still that 9 visit. So why we're still generating just as much as we were with the pain fulls, because she was doing such a good job of getting buy-in from them without the painful and building that therapeutic alliance and that trust, because they realized she did them a favor by that verbal agreement, right? So she still got bought in and commitment from that patient without the painful. Are there still going to be some people that do not continue on with the 10, even though they gave you a word, especially in New York City? Yes, right. But what we found too, and Dave, we talked about this at the pre-recording here, is that you don't have to resell. These individuals that are paying per visit with that verbal agreement are conditioned to pay on a per visit basis. So those patients tend to go a little bit longer to enough to it offsets the people not continuing on. So there's, long story short, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, and we see it within ProKinetics. We have some physical therapists that do great with the painfuls, and they get that commitment of that 9 visits per plan of care. And we have some PTs that do a great job of leveraging that per visit and still get the same result. So it really just depends on how well somebody is doing with that, getting that commitment from patients. We'll tell you that what we do see is if somebody does not do that verbal agreement and keeps them at like that 300 per visit rate, on average, they're only doing 2 or 3 visits.
Got it. I want to come back to the numbers and ask you a little bit more in a second. But Jordan, you were nodding your head. So what else with business economics? I mean, obviously this is important to understand, like all the spokes of the practice, right? Like the labor side, the marketing cost, you have your overhead with your clinical locations, or if you're renting out of a CrossFit box, whatever it might be. What else in terms of business economics? Because this is obviously vitally important.
Right. So a few things I'd add to that. Number one is it's not a one or the other kind of thing. Like you need to be running a hybrid package model, because the point of packages is to create influxes of cash flow, to offset other expenses, to boost profit, to reinvest back in the business. And so right now, across the board in 2023 in ProKinetics, averaged a 28% pay in full percentage, right? And so that's a vast majority of patients who aren't paying in full, but it's a substantial amount of cash flow that we can count on every single month to offset those expenses, where we have everyone else going on that kind of monthly or that, per visit kind of basis. And so the other side that it's important to look at is the speed in which a practice owner can get to a state of sustainability. So if you are working another job, you're doing some PRN hours, you're just trying to get your practice off the ground, you're trying to get to that first 10 to 15K a month where you can replace your salary, feel comfortable in this transition, and go all in on your practice. Well, if you're selling on a per visit basis only, let's say you're charging $200 per visit on a good level. What would that mean in terms of patient volume that you would need in order to hit that first 10 to 15K a month? I think you're around like 30 or 50 visits a month. I'm bad at math, so it's somewhere in there. And so that's a lot of patients that you need to reach that number, which means more acquisition costs, more time in the community, building referrals. And there's a lot more variability that or volatility in the flow of that patient volume, where it's like if you have one bad month, you're in a really dangerous spot. And so it puts a lot of pressure on the acquisition side of things, where people find themselves working harder than they ever have. Whereas when you start out, if you're selling packages and you dedicate yourself to selling transformations and having a framework that's designed to get them a specific result, and you actually know the average amount of time it does take someone to get that result, well, then to get to your first 10K months, if you're selling $2,000 packages, well, you just need to sell 5 of those a month. And so if you can just get to that 5, not only does that mean fewer patients you need in order to achieve your financial goals for the business, but it frees up a substantial amount of time and, most importantly, energy that it requires to grow that practice. And it means that you're able to give so much more of yourself each and every day to the patients that you do have, because you're not stressing quite as much over where your next patient is coming from. And so when you're first starting out, that's one of the most attractive options for selling packages. It's just the amount of work, energy, and effort and cost that goes into reaching that level of sustainable income where you can start to look at more options to grow and scale that practice. Whereas like getting more per visit patients, because we all love that reliable monthly recurring revenue. But at the same time, when you're first getting started, especially, you need that cash flow so you can reinvest and start to create a snowball effect to get yourself where you're safe, and not juggling 2 jobs, working 80 hours a week long term. So those are some things to consider as well, for sure.
Awesome. So Ben, in terms of like the specific numbers, like, so you said you don't really, you and your therapist, you don't offer like, hey, here's like all your options, like a menu, and like then they get confused and they don't want to make a decision. So to work with you guys, it would be like, I agree to an evaluation dollar amount, right? Like we schedule a time, and then I'm presented like that one package, typically that one package option. And like I said before, like I've seen so many practice owners, like they'll be like, yeah, it could be like this visit rate, or it would be like, if you want to save some money, it would be like this package and you save like 10 or 15% per visit or whatever. Like they discount their hourly rate just to get a package sold. So you guys are trying obviously not to do that. So like the evaluation, you guys, are you comfortable sharing any of these numbers, or is this public, like your evaluation dollar amount and package amount and all that?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah. Yeah. So our per visit rate is 300. That is our price anchor. That's our evaluation is 249. Our price anchor is the 300. If somebody wants to continue on after an evaluation, like we have a 10 pack and a 16 pack, our 10 pack is 239 per visit. And then if they want to do the verbal agreement, it's 249 with it. So, but again, we don't position all those different options. It's like, hey, our per visit rate is 300. The great news is that we have what most patients in your situation do that are dealing with X, Y, and Z and trying to get back to X, Y, and Z is move forward with our 10 visit package, which comes out to X amount. Which one's better for you on that? And then we do like give them a breakdown, like, hey, by essentially you're saving $60 per visit over the course of 10 sessions, that's $600 in savings. Which one do you prefer? Right. So we do anchor that $300 so they can see how much they're actually saving. We probably have maybe 1 or 2 patients that are doing the $300 right now, is all. So very few people do that. But yeah, I mean, back to your point, like you don't want to present people an option, a menu list. You're going to get paralysis by analysis. You know, if you go see a dentist and you got a cavity, do they come back with a pricing sheet and say, this is how much it's going to cost to take out a quarter. This is how much it's going to take to take out a half. This is what it's going to take out for the whole thing. No, it's just like you came here for a solution. I'm positioning the solution. This is what you need. Do you want to do it or not? You know, it's not like, do you want to do 6 visits? That might help. Well, you got to tell them what they need, is my opinion on that. So
totally agree. Like it's sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like people don't come to a physical therapist to be sold. They come to a physical therapist to be told exactly what it is they need to get better. And so if you pull out a pricing sheet and you give them options, all you're saying is that you lack conviction in what it is that they need and what it is you want to get them. You're just trying to get a sale. So it's like, why would you offer them 6 visits when you really need 10? And so that prospect is sitting there thinking, it's like, well, which of these do I actually need? And so to me, it really diminishes the authority that the physical therapist really has over the situation, and, you know, the trust they have in themselves to actually get them that result. So yeah, it'd start with what they need based off of your historical data and what you know about this type of patient. And then if there's pushback, then there's always opportunities to like downsell them. Well, why don't we just start with this and see how you're feeling after that? So yeah, totally agree. I love Ben's dental analogy there. It's strong.
So in terms of your clientele, do you guys have any practice owners that are doing like neuro or half neuro? Like for, again, if you guys don't know, like half our clientele is like geriatric and neuro. The other half are busy professionals. They could be 30, 40, 50 years old, and they just want a therapist to come to them because they're super busy. They don't want to go to an outpatient office. So they just want someone to come to them like before work, after work, between home Zoom calls, whatever. Do you guys have clients across the country that are more neuro focused, or maybe they have like 25 or 50% of their clients are neurological based?
Yeah, we have a few. It's definitely not like our bread and butter. Like, you know us, so we're definitely like the active population, pelvic health kind of businesses. But there's more than a few that really focus on neuro. And the only difference is how you structure those packages. And so we have people selling like 24 visit packages and even more than that, where of course, like a lot of them aren't paying in full, but some of them are. And it creates massive transformations in that practice very quickly when someone comes in and they hand you several $1,000s right out of the gate, and now you're set for the next couple months as far as your expenses go. And so it does happen, but it is a little less frequent with who we're working with. And I think on a per visit basis, it does make a lot of sense for the neuro populations. So I'm curious, Dave, I know this is a debate, so it's unfair for you to be the only one asking questions.
Please jump in. Let's do it.
When you started going on a per visit basis, like, was it quick growth right out of the gate? Like, what did your initial couple months look like when you were starting your mobile practice?
No, I mean, I agree with you. Like the way you're coaching therapists, the packages is better in terms of getting cash up front, like you said, reinvesting in ads or paid marketing or coaching like you guys offer, and hiring LinkedIn ads, Indeed ads, whatever for recruiting therapists. I agree. No, I did not have that. I didn't know any better. I told this recently online, like on another video, like my first package that I ever sold was on accident. I had a word of mouth referral from one patient to the next patient. He was busy. He's a professional. He had money, and he goes, and by the way, I was charging like $100 a visit when I first started. This was back in like 2016 or 17 when I was just doing something on the side to pay bills. And he's like, $100. And he's like, hey, can I just like write you a check for like $1,000 for like 10 visits? And I didn't know anybody. I was just like, oh yeah, sure. Like, I didn't know. So my first package was literally on accident, and he sold me on the package, which is hilarious. If you could, I guess a check, is a package. Like we had no financial, we had no agreement, no signed anything other than the intake forms, whatever. So, no, Jordan, I didn't have that. I did not have the benefit of the knowledge or the experience. I didn't have the benefit of the cash flow to reinvest. So it was just grind it out in the beginning per visit.
Yeah. What were you doing initially when you're doing that? Was it kind of boots on the ground hustling? I know Google Ads is something that's been very successful for you. Like, at what stage did you start to expand your marketing to grow a little faster?
It was probably 2017, 18, like maybe a year or so later. Okay. I had some aha moment where like I would track on a spreadsheet leads, right? I would track like names, phone number, all that, on a spreadsheet, and I would go green, yellow, red. Like people that were red were like in network only. Yellow is like we're nurturing them, we're following up with them. Green is like they scheduled the evaluation, ready to roll. And I was tracking the patients on the spreadsheet, and I think back then I was spending, I don't know, like $500 a month or $1,000 a month on Google Ads or something. And then like maybe a couple months goes by, and then I look at this one patient that had spent like thousands of dollars with us between the evaluation and like, let's say 3 months later. And I looked back at that eval and I was like, what did I spend in ad spend that month? Mm-hmm. And he covered, like I gave the example, like he covered multiple months. And then he eventually, stayed and continued with us. So that was my aha moment of when owners online say something like Google Ads don't work or whatever, it's because they're probably not spending enough. They don't have that business economics or the unit economics of this, or the ability to kind of track and say, this person paid for 4, 5, 6 months of my ad spend. So now I need to track these other people into the future. And you guys, I'm sure you coach the same thing. So yeah, it wasn't until maybe a year or two after that when I had some money like on the side, and I was like, let's reinvest in Google ads. And then ever since that aha moment, it was just like every month or year, like I was just spending more and more and more on Google ads, just compounded.
I'm curious about like how the economics kind of looks in your model. So first, like what are your rates?
So we're $300 per visit, Monday through Friday, $500 a visit, Saturday and Sunday. Just like Ben said, with price anchoring, like some people are like, oh no, I don't need weekends. Okay, and now it's like 300 sounds like a deal.
Yeah.
And then we have other people that, and by the just this year, just in 2024, I used to do like 350 as the weekend rate, and then 400, and then we had some people start saying yes to $500 a visit for weekends, and it's just like it's crazy. And then I'm paying my therapist like not that not that full amount, like in terms of the margin on it is just crazy. But again, like I tell my therapist, I'm like I show them my Google ads. I'm like I'm reinvesting back into the practice, get you guys all more new patients, all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our visit rate, 300 per visit. We recently, even earlier this year, kind of around 250 per visit. And then now we're at 300 and 500 per visit. And the 500, again, it kind of acts as like that price anchor. And then most people are going to be fine with Monday through Friday. So then, yeah, 300 sounds like a deal, and they can get I kind of think, and maybe I'm hypothesizing, but like in my head, I think those patients are thinking, wow, I'm getting like a $500 value type physical therapist coming to me for $300 per visit Monday through Friday. So sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I know consumers well, and maybe they're thinking that and maybe they're not. But for us, it's the convenience of the on-demand service, which again is different than outpatient brick and mortar.
Yeah, it's such a luxury. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
I was just saying it's working. So that's all that matters.
And a way to like value yourself and like respect your time on the weekends, because you should be charging substantially more. That's time away from your family. That's time away from all the other parts of life, because you're not just a physical therapist. You do have a life. So I love that structure that you have.
And also to expand on that. So like today's Thursday. So on Saturday, one of my therapists has a new evaluation, a patient that I used to see, and now he's, I'm trying to get him busier. So he's going to go and evaluate this patient. And in New York City, like he's a single guy. He doesn't have a car. Like parking is challenging in Brooklyn and in Manhattan. So he's using public transportation. But he said the F train going to that patient is not running on Saturdays or Sundays. And then I said, well, like you're going to pay for an Uber both ways, and I'll reimburse you. And we're going to, you're going to submit the screenshot of the Uber or whatever. And like, that's what I want to build loyalty for my team members. I want him to stay as long as possible.
Yeah.
And he'll love that, because otherwise he was going to have to take a bus, which I hate taking the bus in New York City. It takes forever. You got to wait. You have no idea. There's apps. The apps are wrong. You have no idea when it's coming. So I want to have those costs kind of built into our charges.
Right.
And we still have profit to reinvest for new ads and all that. But if I was, if we were some insurance-based home care practice, like they're not paying for that. They're not paying for Ubers and Lyfts, and they're not covering, lunches and all this other stuff. So
I love it. And so with your prices being where they're at now, I know what our targets and what our average is for the cost of like acquiring one new evaluation through like our marketing systems. Do you know that what you're getting off of Google? Because I'm curious, like on a per visit basis, because we're dealing with very different like cash collection windows. Like if you're expecting like each patient is worth you, let's say just like $2,000. And you acquire that person from Google, like how long are you waiting to get the return on those marketing dollars? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The last time I checked, I think it was around maybe 6 weeks or so. In terms of lead costs, like the last time I checked, it was like $100 or so per lead. Now that is running Google ads on, the two different types of Google ads, like the click to call, which are more expensive, but then you also get like the riffraff. We get people that are Googling like Fox Rehab. They see like our clickable phone number, and they click on that and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for Johnny, the physical therapist from Fox Rehab. And like, they're calling us. And by the way, when they call us, it's like the automated answering service thing. It's like, thank you for calling Concierge Pain Relief Home Physical Therapy. And then the phone rings, and then the answering service person that kind of collects the lead information, they say our practice name. Yeah. And then the caller still says, yeah, I'm looking for Johnny at Fox Rehab. And sometimes they say, oh, I think I called the wrong number or whatever. So anyway, those ads cost more because you get more of the intent clickable volume, but then you also get the riffraff, and then the ads that are I forget the name, like the ones that are just like the display ads or whatever, that go to like your website or landing page, those cost a little bit less. But we've been around $100 per lead, like per prospective caller, website form fill, whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, and we get the same thing too, Dave. Like we get people, like even if like we miss a call, we have an automated text that says, hey, it's ProKinetics Physical Therapy and Performance. Book a time for a call that works best for you. We'll be calling back as soon as we can. And we call them back and we're like, hey, this is Dr. So-and-so with ProKinetics. So I'll get this phone call from you. Like, yeah, I'm calling to cancel my appointment at X therapy. And like, do you not see the text? Did you not just hear what we said?
Wrong.
Yeah. So, but one thing, not to get off on a tangent here, Google rolled out a new service, Dave, that you might want to look into. It's called local Google Ads. And it used to be specifically, we're testing it. We just started testing it about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It used to be for like window cleaners, like more labor, like contractors, stuff like that. Now they've rolled it out for healthcare, and it is more tailored. And it's like, it says like Google verified. They do like a background check on you. They look at your liability insurance. Like, it's a pretty robust. They look at your MPI number. It's a pretty robust process they take you through, but it puts this like Google verified, and you only pay per lead on it. So if somebody doesn't call you, like you don't get charged for it. Like it's pretty neat. So anyway, something to look into.
And that's not just a new like campaign type in AdWords. This is an entirely new advertising platform that Google released. So it's an entirely new thing. We're excited about it because anytime someone rolls out a new advertising platform, they obviously optimize the algorithm to get the initial people the best results, to gain more users before the algorithm levels out. So now is kind of like the golden age for it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Very interesting. Awesome. All right. So in the pre-interview, Jordan said the business economics, ethos, and outcomes. We kind of talked about the outcomes, but I want to go back to the neuro real quick. So like for us, it's like, yes, if there's like an acute thing, like we have clients that have Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis, and that we know this is a degenerative condition that's long-term, they're going to have it forever. I suppose we could focus a package around like, if they have back pain, then it's kind of like as if they're like an orthopedic client presentation. Here's the package for this type of situation. But with these neuro conditions, it's going to be ongoing. And that was just my main concern with this whole debate and the pros and cons. Like for us, it's like we've had some people, whether they could be geriatric, neuro, or something in between, where they're calling in, and sometimes they're like, literally they're calling in and like, hey, do you take Medicaid? Do you take Medicare? Whatever. We take them through the whole sales process. We kind of see like, we want to find out, is it actually medically necessary? Are they like independent with all their ADLs, all that? And if we say, hey, like we have some clients that have Medicare or Medicaid, and this is, you can check with your own lawyer, whatever, all the practice owners out there. Like we have people, like we just say, like, we have some clients that have Medicaid or Medicare, and they have decided of their own volition to work with us and try us out and all that. And so we've presented it that way. And I just think like if someone is neuro and doesn't have an orthopedic condition, I think just my main challenge, and maybe it goes back to like Ben, and like you've trained your teammates and your team members well enough, and maybe I would have to retrain them of like, here, okay, they finish a package, and then how do we, or Jordan, like how do we reset, like here's what we're focusing on in this package, and then like if they get close to that, or they get to the 6-week transformation, like they want to go from like they can't really walk well to they want to walk in Central Park, or they want to go walk on the beach, or they have some vacation coming up or a wedding coming up, or they want to, some emotional things, like they want to be able to dance with their son or daughter at the first dance at a wedding, like their son or daughter is getting married or something like that. But then it's like, after that, then it's like, do you guys consider like, then what's the next goal? We need to communicate with our patients that are these long-term neuro presentations, like we need to ask them, like, what else is important to you? Like, what are some other things that we can work on? And then you kind of reframe the next package around that. Like, how would you kind of negotiate that?
I got an answer to that, but Ben, you want to take it?
I'll go ahead.
Okay. So number one is we always offer maintenance. You need some sort of back end offer to your program, especially if you're trying to create the best outcomes that you can possibly create. Well, the more they see you, if you're good at what you do, odds are you're going to be able to make their life better the more time they spend with you, right? And so for a neuro package, for example, the way that I would initially structure it is having an upfront package with the expectation of long-term maintenance treatment on the back end of that. And that first end of that package could be things more around one analysis of like, what is it that you're trying to do and prevent from doing and do longer? Maybe it's a risk assessment by helping analyze like their home, the things that they're doing, and helping put together like a really good structured plan during that initial 10, 15 visits to help just make them have a better daily routine, making sure that their home and the people that are closest to them have good safety measures that can help them with the things that they should be doing to, I guess, not prevent, but maybe slow down the progression of what it is that they're going through. And it's a much more tailored thing up front where we get a really good plan. We get to know the person at a really deep level. And then after that initial package, them, their family members, their caretakers can continue to control and push that plan forward long term, or they can continue to work with you after that on a maintenance program where they're seeing you a few times a week, once a week, and then that goes long term. But I would structure a very unique and special experience to sell a package on the front end to not only make yourself vastly different than every other person who's selling those kind of services in town by creating just a really personalized experience, but then on the back end, get them into that maintenance program. And so that's what I would do for selling like a neuro package. But obviously, it's a long-term thing. But that doesn't mean the front end can't be a really rich and unique experience for that individual before enrolling them into those ongoing visits.
You got anything, Ben?
I'll also translate this to ACL recovery, like post-op patients, because those are long-term, right? And so we do see quite a few of those. So I'll walk you through on how we handle that conversation, and also another way you can do it too. Our largest package is 16 visits. And so we just set the expectation that, hey, this is our largest package at 16 visits. You're most likely going to need X amount of these to be able to get back to X, Y, and Z. Let's start with the 16 pack and we'll go from there. And so you set that expectation because you mentioned earlier, like that is one downside to packages. You have to resell. So if you can kind of just set that expectation that, hey, this is our largest package, you will need multiple of these. Let's start with this. It's a good place it'll make that sell easier when that time comes. You can also create a customized package for them. Like I've thought about honestly doing like an ACL recovery package where it's like, I don't know, 40 visits or something like that. Obviously that's a very large upfront commitment, but we would drastically decrease that per visit rate is what it come out to. And that's the thing too, is by offering, I think there was like a research study on the psychology of sales and buying behavior. There's going to be 10% of people that are going to buy no matter how bad you're at sales. You just need to tell them you have it, right? So by not having packages, you're probably losing out about 10% of people that would otherwise buy that up front, even if they just knew that was an option. Like you have somebody, write a check for $1,000 for 10 visits, right? And they even know that's an option. They actually asked you. So there's always going to be 10% of people that are going to want to buy, even if you're terrible at sales, just because they know the option. And vice versa, there's going to be 10% of people that no matter how good you are at sales aren't going to buy. And then you got obviously the other 80% that can fall in the middle, depending on how you do with sales and how you position as well. So that's the thing too, is why I'm thinking about having this larger package, because there's going to be some people that are just going to buy it, just because that's their buying behavior as well.
Right. To build off of that, like selling maintenance packages and just like on a per visit basis, I'm sure you're pre-framing every step of the way of like, hey, like we're going to start by doing this, but then in a few sessions, we're going to start doing this. I'd imagine there's some sort of level to that on a per visit basis to help them see kind of the long-term vision of what it is that you're going to be doing together, rather than only kind of focusing on whatever the next thing is, well, when we're focusing on trying to enroll people into maintenance, has been said, like we bring that up on the very first conversation where it's like most people with this issue, we're able to get them back to X, Y, and Z within 10 visits. Then the most people, they just work with us on an ongoing maintenance basis to make sure that not only does this problem not come back, but future problems never happen altogether. And so it's a part of the first conversation. And then usually the last like 2 or 3 sessions of that package we sold are our actual maintenance sessions, or at least some degree worked into that package so that they've already gone through some of that stuff. And so it's a natural progression into it because they've already had it, they like it, and they want to continue doing it. And so it's instead of this friction upsell, it's really just a natural ascension model. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what we would do. I'm curious with like the pay per visit, like what are you doing to make sure that people are sticking with you long term? Because in the pre-session here, you mentioned that with cash package sales, there's always like you have to resell them, but I would argue that you have to sell every
You're reselling every visit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, what do you think of that?
Yeah, we absolutely have to demonstrate enough value to kind of resell every visit, or, you know, train my therapist that's saying like, hey, like, all right, Jordan, hey, we did this, and today, and it was great. And then next visit, we're going to look at this and this, or we're going to do this or this intervention or this drill or this, whatever, this little thing we're going to work on. But the reason why we're working on this thing is because you want to get to walking the stairs again, or traveling. You have in 6 weeks, you have a trip to Europe coming up or whatever, and you got to be on your feet more. So we're going to do this, and this in the next visit or the next week, whatever. So yes, we always have to kind of pre-frame, like we kind of have to like preview what we're going to be doing with them in the near future. But then at some point, I think we might get a little complacent or lazy. And then it's just like the patient or client likes it or loves it enough where they continue to have us come back. And this is where the practice owner needs to continue to, you know, train and retrain and support their therapist. Because we don't want to take our patients for granted, but like we have had, like I said, patients been with us for 3, 4, 5 something years. And I think that they just know, like they have some level of certainty or appreciation of what we offer. And like we're working on, we always have to let them know up front and during the process, like we're working on something, but like if you wake up like you slept wrong and your neck's tweaked or whatever, like if you go to like an insurance-based clinic and you're being treated for like your ankle, and then you walk in the next visit and you're like, hey, like I slept weird last night, my neck hurts and my neck is way worse than my ankle today. In an insurance-based clinic, they're going to be like, we must evaluate your neck. We have to schedule a different visit to evaluate your neck, and we cannot touch your neck today because we are insurance approved for 8 visits for your ankle only under that ICD-10 code. Like for us, it's like, we go, cool. Like today's visit, we're just doing the neck. We're going to screen it. We're going to kind of do a little evaluation, whatever, but we're not going to like charge them extra or something for an evaluation. So hopefully that kind of shines a little bit light there in terms of what we would do.
Yeah. And that it's totally an advantage that I think on a, you know, pay per visit does have, where in some cases, depending on your model. Now, I think in ProKinetics and a lot of our clients, they do a really good job of positioning maintenance programs. But like with your model, it's so much less transactional. And so it's easier for, I would imagine, for some patients to not view you as something to go and buy, but like you're an integrated part of their life. Like they begin to think like, I don't know, like I need this on an ongoing basis. And if I need anything, I know that I can count on them without, you know, getting pitched this big extravagant like package. So I think that is definitely an advantage, and it creates these really rich long-term relationships. Ben, I guess for you, do you have people that, as Dave said, like just keep coming back forever and ever for years on end?
Yeah, we do have some people that we give them the option. This isn't as structured. If somebody buys a package, like a 10-pack, we let them continue on a per visit basis or do a roll into our continuity membership where they can continue on just on a per visit basis instead of having to re-up for another package. Because the big thing is like, I think the danger zone for
Changes.
Physical therapist is like that zero to like five, those first 5 visits. If you can have somebody come back for 5 visits, like they're most likely going to continue on. It's getting that buy-in in those first few visits. If you can get past that, you're good. Whether they buy a package or per visit, it's just getting past that. After that, you've already built enough rapport with them that they're most likely going to continue on as long as you position it well. You built enough value, in my opinion.
I think there is something to be said also with the natural and the conclusion that comes with selling packages. Because most people, especially when they come into cash pay, they've maybe seen a chiropractor for the last 2 years and go get a weekly adjustment or something like that. And they want something that's more permanent. They want to believe that this isn't a life sentence, and they want some certainty that this can conclude. And so I think packages do offer a lot of people that peace of mind that there's someone out here who actually believes I can beat this thing for good. And a lot of those people, as Ben said, they do then say, it's like, well, I have other things. Like what else? Like I'm one of those people. Like I'm on a maintenance program and am indefinitely because I'm one of those people that's like, I want to be bulletproof. I want to be indestructible. I want to avoid all the surgeries that all the men in my family have had to undergo. And so have you had any sort of like pushback on a like per visit basis? Like, do you know if there's like an average like drop off rate or average number of visits that at scale, like people tend to stick around for before they're like, no, I'm good?
I don't have the number in front of me, but like, of course, listen, I'm not like Superman, right? So like, of course we have people that drop off after 1 or 2 visits. Like, I'm not going to act like everyone stays with us forever. And yes, I agree with Ben. Like after, I would, probably at like that 3 to 5 visit range. Like if we have people that hit that, like, they typically stay with us for like months. Like they try us, they kick the tires for 1 or 2 visits. Maybe we're not for them. Maybe they, in their head, they're like, this isn't worth the dollar amount, or they think they can go to, the stretch place or a personal trainer or massage, or some people are looking for more passive stuff and we're making them do active stuff like you guys. Like every consumer is a little different. It certainly depends, like on the person, and it depends on the practice.
That makes sense. Yeah. For us, we know that around like the 4th or 5th visit, like that's the biggest drop off point, because that's when people are starting to feel better and they're starting to think like, well, do I really need to like pay more money to keep going? Because I'm feeling pretty strong today. And so that's another reason why, and you can totally do this on a per visit basis too. But like during that initial evaluation, like we use a tool that Ben's called Mount Doomore. I don't remember who we learned it from at one point, but it's a poster that basically explains the 3 phases of our treatment.
I saw this. I need a copy from Ben. I love this. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's epic, but it also like pre-frames that for folks so they don't drop off, where there's a line between like where they are and where they want to go. Then there's a big red line right in the middle. And it's like, hey, once we get here, this is when you're going to start to actually feel better. And this is when a lot of people think that they're done and that they don't need more physical therapy. But the truth is that we've only just begun treatment, and the root cause of what caused the symptom to happen in the first place isn't solved yet. Now, if you drop off here, odds are you're going to be back in here in a week, 2 weeks, a month from now, and it's going to end up being even more expensive and time intensive in order to solve it. And so we like pre-frame them right around that time, just so that when it happens, they already expect it, and so that they continue on with that treatment. Now, when you're doing like an initial eval with clients, do you have like what does that like pitch and that recommendation kind of look like? Are you talking about how many visits that this thing might take, or any sort of like pre-framing around that? Or is it all just centered around like, great, here's what's going on. The next session, here's what we'd be focused on. Let's get it scheduled. Like, what does that look like?
Good question. We don't focus because we don't have, I guess, because I feel like we don't have to. We don't specifically, we'll say more about like a timeline, but not a number of visits. And I think like, respectfully, I think it's a lot easier to be working with an athletic population where it's like that, that they were just snatching, squatting, doing doing X, Y, Z. And they did, and like, okay, what was the mechanism of injury? It was a kettlebell, it was a clean, it was a jerk, whatever, or they tweaked something, they fell at a pop, hip pain, whatever. Like, that what they were just recently doing, the mechanism of injury of what caused it. You know how long they've been dealing with it. Is this brand new or is this like a recurring thing? The therapist, Ben, all his therapists, like they'll ask all these questions and they'll get a sense of like, okay, based off of that, like you can do this over a phone call. I think like you can do it almost like telehealth. Like based on that, maybe you can on video, you could watch them, or in person, you watch them squat and lunge and walk and move. Most physical therapists that work with an active population, I agree. Like, yeah, they can say like, oh, this is going to get better in, 6 visits or 8 visits or the 10 pack or whatever. Like, this is why this package is good for you. You're going to get them to stick around from visit 5 to 10 and go from there. The challenge for us is we don't say the timeline, I think, because maybe I'm wrong, but because of half of our clientele being neuro, geriatric, we're doing gait training and balance, like they're gonna have some improvements by 10 visits, but it depends. Like, are they going to be compliant? Are they going to do some of their HEP or not? Are they going to be like, they need us to actually schedule into their life the visits so that that's like the only time they're moving? It's a different population from the CrossFitters and the active population. So because of some of those reasons, I think we default to not talking about the number of visits, and we kind of default to talking about, do you have any upcoming life events? Do you like, or a timeline, like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, here's what you can expect. And then we talk about the financial component, right, Jordan? So we'll say like, hey, based off of this evaluation, you would get to whatever thing we're trying to work towards in the next month. But it depends, like the weekly frequency. Like, are we going to say like, hey, in 1 month, if you're doing 3 or 4 visits a week, in 1 month, you're going to go from here to here. But then it depends on their financial resources. We have some people that start with us and they only do 1 or 2 visits a week because of their financial resources, because they're paying out of pocket. And then we have other people that start with us and they're like, they have money, or and they're serious and they're investing in their husband or wife or their mother or father's health and wellness, or they have resources and they say, hey, we want you to come 5, 6, 7 days a week, which is, it's like very, very different, or it's somewhat different from a CrossFitter who tweaks something, you sell them a 10 pack, they're going to get better. It just, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not that different, but I think we leave it open-ended. I think half of the reason, because of our clientele being different than the quicker fixes or the, short acute injuries, you get them back, manual therapy, dry needling, whatever, cupping, you're loading their joints, your mobilization, mobility, whatever, and they're moving and grooving by visit 8, 9, 10. Compared to us, it's like, that's why it's a little bit more open-ended. So that's kind of our current structure.
Right. And your structure makes so much sense. It's obviously been so successful for you because we're selling, getting back to lifting or running a marathon again. You're extending life and boosting quality of life, which is a very, very different kind of sale. And so the longevity and the long term of that, it makes perfect sense.
And by the way, just to double click on that, like, it is great. It's a great idea for any therapist out there to name the program. So Ben said the ACL program that you guys might be doing or are doing. And for us, like when I was telling Jordan, like we have this one guy that we see pretty much like 5 days a week for almost the past 4 years. So they're spending like $5K a month with us, and they're spending 30, 40 grand a year or something, depending on how long he's here versus vacationing and away or whatever. So when we send the receipts and we send payment receipts to that specific family, like the word longevity is in there because the family cares about the longevity of that family member. So like we have program, and it's like the receipt, it says like, home physical therapy / longevity program, but it's just an open-ended program. It's just per visit. Like we're, like the payment structure is open-ended. It's not a package, but we can still call it a program or this specialized thing for them, which is super important. And that you should do regardless of your pay structure.
100%. Everyone needs a unique mechanism. Everyone's got to have their own unique thing that helps them stand out. Otherwise, you just fall into the commodity trap, So totally agree on that.
One other thing, I think it's not that big of a deal, but like you guys benefit with packages with, you were saying 20 of all your clients, 28% are doing the paid in full. So right there, 28% of those patients and all your clients across the country that are doing that, they benefit more than us because they are having a little less admin time, a little less credit card swiping, a little less of the per visit charges each time. Like I said, like we're kind of doing it, per week, or we do batch, payments and catch up and send receipts and all that type of stuff, versus the ones that you have over a one fourth of your patients swipe the credit card the one time for the dollar amount. You have an EMR that tracks the digital punch card, the package. That's where you guys can shine and benefit, like anyone that's doing a package like that. And then there's a little bit less of the admin, a little less of the, the paperwork stuff, charging the credit card, whatever, making sure the credit card was charged for all these per visits. So that is where we have a little more of the paperwork or admin or computer, work compared to you guys.
Yeah, for us, it's tracking down cards that have declined, or like they got a new card. That's what really irks me, is tracking people down, playing phone tag, trying to collect that. It's mainly for us that the admin time is the credit cards, whatnot.
If we ever have this debate again, we should take a look at accounts receivable and see which one is the heavier weight, because I bet that's it's pretty similar what we're expecting to get from prospects on a per visit basis versus how much we're chasing down on the cash on the package side.
It ain't going to be as bad as in-network, let me tell you.
Ain't that the truth?
They track AR like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. It's like crazy. Like your money's out there and your insurance companies are holding it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing too that Dave has a leg up is what he's charging as well. Your profit margins are probably very good, like with charging. I don't know if your average is like 325, but I'm guessing it's probably around 325 with some on the weekends, and probably the majority obviously on the weekdays. But that's another thing too, is I'm sure the cash flow, because you're charging at those rates, is pretty solid though too, even though you're not doing packages.
But at the same time, what I've learned is physical therapists mostly love to go to one place and work, and they don't like to travel around like what we do. So we need to kind of find some specialist sniper physical therapist that wants to like run around the city and be in the subway and all that. So that's where and that's a different conversation about like mobile versus brick and mortar, because it takes a specific type of person or therapist that wants to travel between patient visits. And for me, like, I remember I got into it because, like I said, like I was just trying to pay some bills at the time. I had like the failed tech startup that I was trying to sell, this app to practice owners. And the thing that I love is like, as soon as when I'm treating or was treating patients, like between patient visits, I'm popping in an audiobook, a podcast. I'm listening to you guys. I'm listening to, business podcasts or YouTube videos and all that type of stuff. So I'm always learning in between, which you can't do in a brick and mortar. But that's the downside of my model, is because a lot of therapists, they are used to, or they want to just go to one place and work, and you set the schedule up for them, and that's a whole other conversation, because like even for us, like I have to kind of teach my therapists how to like build out their schedule, and they're confirming their visits with the patients. Again, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that could be another fun one, like mobile practice versus brick and mortar. That's a question we get all the time. It's one of our hottest YouTube videos too, so it could be a good one.
Let me go back to Jordan. You mentioned the natural end, the natural
conclusion of a
Okay, so I agree 100%. I've experienced, let's say I'm reflecting back on the last 5, 6 something years, and we've even had the per visit patients that we've had, when there's something in the calendar, and it's typically things like they go away on vacation, or it's Christmas, holidays, New Year's, or our therapist goes on vacation for a week or two. That is a disruption that sometimes is a natural end to this ongoing per visit plan of care. Now, of course, some people come back, but it's wild, the drop off. And I'm sure that it's even more so with in-network, and it's probably in the middle, but in-network insurance versus like Ben and like outpatient brick and mortar, but cash, I think they're in the middle. And in-network would be even more so, like whenever there's like something like, I'm joking, but I say like when it's a sunny day or it's like a cloudy day or an earthquake or something like that would cause patients to like drop off and stop coming. But even for us on the per visit, if I go away for 2 weeks, and even if I had tried to schedule those patients for when I come back or whatever, it's so interesting, like the consumer psychology. Like if there's some disruption, like they go away, the holidays, whatever, it's like they come back around and it's like or maybe we didn't do a great job of like pre-framing and like getting them like back on track of like their health and wellness goals or whatever, or like other things in their life happen. And that is, again, a little bit of the challenge or the downfall with the packages, because they have that focus of like, oh, this punch card, this package is now ending. And it could allow for some percentage of folks, it sounds like not as much in Ben's practice, but other cash practices where this natural end of the package, and now they're thinking like, oh, you know what? Let me like let me see how it is on my own for a few months. Like, like, do you ever have anyone like that, Ben, where they're kind of like, let me just, instead of maintenance or instead of the per visit, like, let me just kind of see, or they kind of drift away. And like, I'm sure you guys do way better follow-up than most practices, and other practices, like the patients are just like, they kind of drift away or they stop answering texts or emails, like something like that.
Yeah, so we really try and we do them like, hey, totally understand. We typically fill up 3 or 4 weeks in advance. You know that, Ms. Smith. Let's get something on the books. If it doesn't work, just list 24 hours in advance, and you're good to go. Worst comes to worst, you don't need the appointment, you cancel in time, good to go. But if you need it, at least it's there. How does that sound? So we try and get them back on the books. If they decline that, then they go into a reactivation campaign where they get a text from their treating physical therapist. Hey, Ms. Smith, just checking to see how are you doing? How's everything been feeling? That is our highest reactivation text. It's just checking, how are you feeling? Simply asking somebody how they're feeling. Not like, hey, this is a special that we're running, yada, yada. It's just generally checking with somebody. Around that, we have different texts that go out periodically. One about 3 to 4 weeks after their last visit, and another one that goes out about 60 to 75 days as well, following up again. So that's one thing that we do from a reactivation standpoint that does get quite a few people back on the books. That's been a game changer for us.
Definitely. And I think the other piece is making sure that everyone knows it's way easier to get off the schedule than back on that schedule. And also why it's so important to align yourself with the accomplishment of the patient's greater goals. So it's like they're in there to get back to running marathons. But during that package, it's important to talk about like, once we're going to hit this, again, giving them certainty. It's like, we're going to hit this. What's the next thing that you're trying to do? What's something that you've been aiming for? And aligning yourself with the greater vision of not just what they want to get back to, but who it is they want to become, so that you have that strong emotional connection that you're the one person in their life that might be supporting them and doing that to get them to come back once they do accomplish that initial goal.
Awesome. So Ben, Jordan was mentioning earlier the package and then either the per visit, like kind of maintenance. And I agree 100%, Jordan, like every practice needs to have maintenance. Even if you're in network, you should just segue them to some cash pay maintenance where you decide what you want to offer, like some manual therapy, or they just come in and they do their HEP in the gym, and that's obviously cheaper. But Ben, like, let's say hypothetically, I did 10 visits with you guys. I did the paid package, and then you offered me, I chose either the monthly recurring membership, or I'm paying you, like, I come once a week for maintenance, right? So I'm paying like whatever the dollar amount, $250 or whatever per visit, or $300 or whatever per visit, for 6 or 12 months. And then I have some acute injury, but I come in for that maintenance visit, or I call you ahead of time, or I don't. Like, I have some issue. Maybe I slept wrong. Maybe it's temporarily, it's just a tweaked neck or whatever, or I have you can make it up. I have some injury or whatever. Are you gonna, like, how is that different? Like, do you now have to, are you going to pitch me like, hey, that needs to be evaluated? That's a different thing that we got to carve out on the calendar. Are you going to resell me and re-offer me a package? Or you're going to kind of just treat me depending on what it is in the per visit a la carte maintenance component of your offering?
Yeah, I'll try and make this as concise as possible. Our structure of our continuity program is it's $199 per month. They have to commit to a minimum of 3 months. And what we do is value that we place on this as well is letting them know, hey, we will continue to increase our rates. As long as you are in this membership, you will not be subject to our increase in rates. If you have a flare-up, Ms. Smith, you can continue on a per visit basis at $199 versus our $250 or $300 rate. So it's a substantial difference. And so no, to answer your question, Dave, we don't ask them to purchase another package. They can add visits at $199 per visit as long as they're part of that membership,
which their family is also able to use.
Right. So like, I like that. Right. So if the patient can't use it, whatever, they can pass along that visitor session to the family, right?
Yep.
So I just want to get clarity on that. So I'm paying $199 a month for the $199 a month for 3 months for the maintenance component, right?
Yep.
And I'm getting what? Am I getting manual therapy, or is it just like I'm coming in, I'm using your equipment?
Nope. It's whatever. It's a session, one-on-one session. They can do manual therapy. It can be therapeutic exercise, whatever really the patient values and whatever the therapist thinks is best too.
So I'm in that membership. I get it. I'm paying $199 a month for 1 visit a month with your therapist. I come in on the 2nd month and I say, hey, I have some other thing. I have some other injury. I have to pay $199 for that visit as well. And that's like, if I want to come in for a 2nd visit that month, or like, how does that work?
Yeah. So if they had like a flare up, so that membership is meant to be for 1 time per month. Let's say they have a flare up and they want to come in 3 times that month. They're covered for 1 visit because they're already part of that membership, and they can just pay per visit at $199 for any extra visits that month that they might need.
Love it. That's what I thought you meant. So thank you for clarifying. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, and a big reason we're doing the membership, and why I encourage other people to do it. And Dave, you know this too, the evaluation of your practice. We're trying to get our reoccurring revenue between 20 to 30%. And that increases the EBITDA that when somebody's looking to buy your practice, they really value that reoccurring revenue. And so we're really trying to get that to that 20 to 30% mark in the event that, down the road, we may sell ProKinetics. And that's something that does increase the value of your business substantially. And that's why we're making a big push. Yes, the reoccurring revenue is great, but it'll be even more beneficial, down the road if we end up selling ProKinetics as well.
That's awesome. Love it. And I like how it's a very simple offering. Like, it's a simple offer, 1 visit a week, but it's still one-on-one with a doctor of physical therapy. They can add extra visits to it if they need it. So thank you for clarifying that. And then, yeah, I mean, you get someone's credit card on file, they approve the recurring payment, and if they continue to see value in it, and I mean, 1 visit a month is not that bad. You have to drive to your location, one of those locations, and they're treated. Like, it's not like too much of a lift, and that's absolutely beautiful on the business practice side of things, where it's just like that card gets charged automatically. You don't have to like email them like, hey, can you fill out this payment form? Can you can you swipe your credit card? Can you bring your credit card in and pull your credit card out? Or even phone tap, which now even phone tap is easier than credit card, and credit card has been easier than check and cash. So it's an interesting evolution overall with like payments and, commerce and transactions.
Exactly. It's just nice peace of mind having that recurring revenue, knowing that, hey, on X date, we're going to have influx of cash that's going to cover our rent, or cover an entire therapist's salary for that month. It's a lot of peace of mind in that.
Have you been doing the monthly or the membership offering? Have you been doing that enough where you've had enough like time or volume to kind of see like, is it working, or is it too early, or is there a way to like, have you seen it's great with like maintaining the monthly recurring payments, or do you have like people falling off? Like, is there enough like time or money going through that process to kind of see like how it's going, or is it kind of too early?
Yeah, it's still a little too early, but overall satisfied with it. We officially launched it like a really robust program with like reoccurring revenue and really built out about 6 months ago. We only had 2 or 3 people discontinue over those last 6 months, and we've doubled our reoccurring revenue from last month to this month as well. So it's going really well so far. We'll see, knock on wood, we'll see if that continues, but a little bit too early to tell, but so far so good.
And just like cancel like 30 days notice or something like that, or what type of like cancellation policy?
30 days heads up. Another thing too is we do it for recruitment purposes. Every person that every time a physical therapist gets somebody on this recurring revenue, they also get recurring revenue themselves. They get $10 for every patient that is on this membership. So they are incentivized to make that membership. And as you know, it's very difficult to hire physical therapist and retain physical therapist. And this is a great retention tool that we're using. And I really position as like, hey, if you are able to get X amount of patients on recurring revenue, you would get, if you invest in the S&P 500, you invest, let's say, $100,000, you can take out cash flow of 4% of that. So $4,000 per year. If you get X amount of people on membership, you are getting more cash flow than you would if you had invested $100,000 in the S&P 500. That's a really powerful statement, very eye-opening. thing for those physical therapists, and they're gung ho about it.
Love it. Incredible. Let's see my notes. We covered pretty much all the ground. Anything else that we left out? Or either closing remarks or anything that we left out, or wrap up comments?
I don't think so. No, you did really well. I mean, 2-on-1, you did a hell lot better than I would have done, Dave. So.
Well, I'm really considering, like, it takes, listen, here's another thing, right? It's like the per visit thing. It's, you go from a physical therapist, you're probably working for someone else, unless you have a practice when you're a new grad, like you work somewhere else. You're kind of used to like the billable units or like the per visit type of thing. So it's just a natural progression. Like, you start a practice, you're hybrid, you're out of network, you take Medicare, you don't take Medicare, you charge out of pocket. It just kind of is easier to do what I'm doing, like in some cases, per visit. And then I think it takes more planning. It certainly can scale well, and it can certainly grow well and have so many positives. But I think owners would need your assistance and, your help and mentorship and coaching with like setting all this up, because you got to be able to offer and track like the package, then segue them off. Are they going to go take the off ramp to maintenance or the monthly recurring? And those are two different things. Like, those are two different offerings. So it just some extra steps. And I'm not, it's hard to kind of say which one's better or worse. I certainly see, like, for an orthopedic active population, for brick and mortar, like, obviously, Ben, you prove like packages is the way to go. It's crushing it. I would love to connect or talk to any other practice owners, maybe that even you guys work with, that are 50% or more like neuro or some chronic, like long-term component. And I just think that the big package for those folks, the 16 visit, the 20, the 30 visit, whatever, like, I feel like even presenting that number will be a deterrent for some percentage. Like Ben said, 10% of people they're going to buy no matter what. But some percentage, I don't know what it is, but some percentage are going to be turned off by such a big number. And maybe that's like the bottom 10% and maybe they wouldn't have converted anyway. I don't know. But those are just some of the considerations. Like, you see this big package, I think it scares off some people. And that's it could be a limiting belief. It could be a misheld belief, but like, when we have people call in, they have Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, their intent is to use their insurance, but then they end up spending $10K with us. I believe that a lot of them would have only gotten there from the per visit route because it was spread out over time, almost like it was financed, and it was not the 10K or the 5K big dollar amount up front. So we kind of like, it's almost like we let some people come in, they see how it is, but then they stay with us over time. And I think some of those people, 10, 15, whatever percent of folks, would have been scared off and would not have worked with us if we had that offering. But then again, Ben refuted that by saying, hey, out in Iowa, like, hey, can I have your word? Would do the old, verbal handshake, spit in the handshake. Like, if you commit to the 10 visit and pay per visit, you could do it for the $250 amount per visit without the package or something like that. So I suppose, there's pros and cons to all this. I think we certainly, grilled it and chopped it up.
Yeah, I had fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really fun conversation. There's not a right or wrong answer. It's based on what kind of business you want to run, the population you want to work with, and what's the transformation you're selling. You're selling longevity and higher quality of life that doesn't have a natural end date. Well, I guess it kind of does, but it's a much longer time window that we're operating with. So I think your model for what you're doing makes absolute perfect sense. And people just have to do the common sense thing and break down, what do I want my growth rate to look like? What kind of population do I want to serve? And really think through all the things that we talked about here today and arrive at the conclusion that fits themselves, their beliefs, and how they want to operate.
Awesome. Y'all go check out Clinical Marketer on YouTube. And what's the other place? Like, you want folks to connect with you? I mean, they probably already connect.
Yeah,
if they know the show, they're probably connected with you already. But Facebook, LinkedIn, where?
We have a school community that has all of our best training available for free right now. Everything we know from scaling Ben's practice to $2 million per year is available. It's a cash physical therapy school.
And I feel like a lot more folks are using that. And that's kind of like the the new tool that is different than the Facebook groups because of Facebook's control over the groups? Is that kind of why you guys migrated to a school account instead of just a Facebook group?
It's just a much better interface for education, because when people are on Facebook, even if they're in a group, they're just focused on scrolling, and the algorithm only shows certain things to certain people. Whereas the school community, it's a much higher level of intent of learning, and it's much easier to find the things that you value the most out of it. And so, yeah, it's an incredible program. I'm excited to see what it turns into over the next few years. But between that and YouTube, that is where we're putting all of our brand new content, all of our top trainings. That's the best place to access, or follow Clinical Marketer on Instagram as well.
Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE@CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.